Hello students, once again I welcome you all in my new video for class 9 and I hope you all are healthy and studying at your home through online videos. So this is the third video from the chapter Fundamental Unit of Life Cell, and in my previous video we have completed the three basic features of a typical cell along with the structure of cell membrane, uh, model fluid mosaic model proposed by Singer and Nicholson to explain the structure of cell membrane, and also we have completed the functions of cell membrane along with how the materials are going to transport in and out of the cell, in which we have studied passive transport method, diffusion and osmosis. Today we will start the next session about the active transport. So I hope you all have done the assignments that was related with the previous video, and at the end of today's video I'll upload the answers, so that will be beneficial for you. So today we are going to see what is active transport method and what are endocytosis and exocytosis, along with one more basic feature of a plant cell, that the plant cells are having one additional outer covering around their cell membrane, that is known as cell wall, and we will also see about the structure of nucleus and its function and what are the structures that can be seen inside the nucleus. So today these are the topics that we are going to discuss together. So let's start from the first topic, that is known as active transport. Actually, active transport is a method in which molecules can transport through a cell membrane against the concentration gradient means from lower concentration to higher concentration, and hence it needs energy for transport. It is a rapid process than passive transport, and commonly sugar, salts, ions, and amino acids are transported through this method, like sodium potassium pump, which helps in the transfer of nerve impulses, which you will study in next class, class 10th. Another method of transport is endocytosis and exocytosis, in which macromolecules and food particles move across the cell membrane. So, the first one is endocytosis. When food and other substances are ingested inside the cell from external medium, it is called endocytosis. Depending upon the substances involved in transport, endocytosis is of two types: pinocytosis and phagocytosis. So, pinocytosis is the intake of minute droplets of extracellular fluids by a cell through the cell membrane. Extracellular fluid means the fluid present outside the cell. So, pinocytosis is the movement of fluids inside the cell by forming invagination in cell membrane. So, it is also called cell drinking. Whereas the intake of solid particles by a cell through plasma membrane is called phagocytosis or cell eating. In both processes, plasma membrane invaginates and forms a vesicle which fuse with lysosomes to liberate their content. Our white blood cells kill invading pathogens through phagocytosis. The next process is exocytosis, in which substances are eliminated out from the cell. So, it is also called cellular vomiting. The vesicles from Golgi apparatus attach with cell membrane, and membrane of vesicle and cell fuse together to release substance out from the cell. So moving to the next topic, the main basic feature of a plant cell is cell wall. Cell wall is a rigid, semi-transparent, non-living outermost protective covering of the plant cell, fungi, and in some prokaryotes like bacteria. It is present outside the plasma membrane and protects the internal organelles from any damage. In plant cell, it is made up of a complex sugar cellulose. So we will see now what are the functions of cell wall. It provides rigidity and definite shape to the cell. It regulates the osmotic pressure of cell and protects the cell from infections and mechanical damage. So a question can be asked here: what will happen if a plant cell is placed in hypotonic or isotonic or hypertonic solution? So if a plant cell is kept in hypertonic solution, the cytoplasm along with the cell membrane shrinks and separates from the cell wall due to the flow of water out of the cell. This shrinkage of protoplasm from the cell wall due to exosmosis in a hypertonic solution is called plasmolysis. If a plant cell is placed in hypotonic solution, it will absorb water and swell up, but the cell will not burst due to the rigid cell wall. We have seen now the outermost covering in plant cell and in animal cell, that is cell wall and cell membrane respectively. Now we will see what is nucleus. So nucleus is usually a spherical or oval shaped dense structure embedded in cytoplasm and present in all eukaryotic cell. In prokaryotes, well-defined nucleus is not present, so the nuclear region in prokaryotes is called nucleoid, which is actually the genetic material embedded in the cytoplasm. So, nucleus is placed centrally in animal cell, but in plant cell, due to vacuole, it may shift to one side. A nucleus is surrounded by double membrane, which is known as nuclear envelope or nuclear membrane. The colorless fluid enclosed by nuclear membrane is called nucleoplasm, in which nucleolus and chromatin materials are embedded. Nucleolus is spherical in shape and may be one or more in number present inside the nucleoplasm, and it is responsible for the production of ribosomes. So it is also called the factory of ribosomes. The chromatin threads are present, which are actually the genetic material, and these chromatin condense into long threads and finally form the rod-like structures known as chromosomes during the cell division process. So chromosomes are mainly composed of two components, DNA and proteins. And you are having a knowledge of DNA from your previous class knowledge, that these are the genetic materials which are responsible to carry out the characteristics from parents to their offsprings. So the functional units of DNA which are passed from one generation to the next generation are the genes, which are known as hereditary unit, and DNA is called the hereditary material. So moving to the function of nucleus. Nucleus serves as a controlling center of the cell, and without the nucleus, a cell can neither survive nor perform a specialized function. So it controls the production of enzymes essential for metabolic reactions. It regulates the cell cycle, which is known as cell division, and it also controls the functions of other cell organelles. So students, that was all for today, in which we have seen the active transport method, in which the substances are going to move against concentration gradient. Concentration gradient means in this method the substances are going to move from lower concentration towards the higher concentration, and thus it needs energy to conduct this transport, this movement. And this is a biochemical process because some carriers or enzymes are needed to conduct this transport. And if we will compare to active transport with the previous one, passive transport, passive transport is a physical process, and in this process the substances were moving from higher concentration towards the lower concentration, but here just opposite to that, from lower concentration towards the higher concentration. And when we compare, it is a rapid process than the passive transport. Then you get to know about endocytosis process. Endocytosis means the movement of substances from extracellular fluid or external surrounding towards inside the cell. This process is known as endocytosis, and on the basis of the nature of substances, if the substances are fluids, this process is known as pinocytosis, and if the substances are solid, this process is known as phagocytosis. So pinocytosis is also known as cell drinking, and phagocytosis is also known as cell eating. Then exocytosis. Exo means removing outside. So elimination of substances or the waste materials from cell to the external medium, external surrounding, is known as exocytosis. Then we have seen the cell wall, that is a non-living structure, rigid and outermost layer in the plant cell as well as in some prokaryotes and some fungi. And in plants it is made up of cellulose. Cellulose is a complex sugar. Its function is what? To provide rigidity and shape to the plant cell, and it also regulates the osmotic pressure. As you have seen that osmosis may be endosmosis or exosmosis. So if we are going to place any animal cell in a hypotonic solution, the cell is going to absorb water. In the same way, if we are going to place a plant cell in a hypotonic solution, then again plant cell is going to absorb water from the external solution. But since the plant cells are having cell wall, so the plant cell is not going to burst or rupture. Only the plant cell is going to swell. One more process is there, that is known as plasmolysis. So the shrinkage of protoplasm from cell wall due to exosmosis in a hypertonic solution. So when we are going to place a plant cell in a hypertonic solution in which the amount of solute is more outside and the amount of water is less. So here, from the cell the water is going to remove out, and since the water is going to remove out, the plasma membrane and protoplasm will shrink, and this is the reason why the cell membrane will move from the cell wall. So finally we have seen the structure of nucleus, that it is what? It may be oval or spherical in shape, and when we are considering about the animal cell, it will be placed centrally, but since we know that plant cell contain vacuole, and that vacuole performs the function of storing, so sometimes in plant cell nucleus is going to place peripheral, shift one side, and we know that nucleus contain again a dense spherical structure that is known as nucleolus, and this is responsible for production of ribosome. That's why it is known as factory of ribosome, and some genetic material embedded in the nucleoplasm, that is known as chromatin, and these chromatin threads are going to change into chromosome when our cell is going to divide. So I hope you all will be able to understand all these topics, and in the next video we will talk about the cytoplasm and the structures, means the cell organelles that are embedded in the cytoplasm, and what are their structures and function, and how they are going to help for the cell for each and every function that are very essential for performing life. So till then, we will meet in the next video. Take care of yourself and be safe.